And they universally said, I think without exception, that they felt that people who weren't riding should receive a discount, and kids should also receive a discount because they don't eat as much. Now, as a mother of a 9 and 10-year-old, 2 boys, I can tell you my kids eat more than I do, but again, that was their thought process. So a couple examples here. Michelle. Now Michelle, she actually shared this picture with me. They went on a Dude Ranch vacation, and she sees the value. Okay, she gets the experience. Notice in her evaluation that she pulls out setting and hospitality, right? She gets it. Becca has never been. She hasn't been to a Dude Ranch. So she came up to, she thought maybe $550 per night for a budget trip would be pretty good. And again, notice how she breaks it out. She's thinking just about what everyone else offers in the tourism industry. Lodging, activities, food, right? There's no emotional connection there because she hasn't been. She doesn't know what to expect. Susan, now Susan has been, Susan's in her mid-60s. She hasn't been in quite some time, but she was willing to pay between $350 and $450 per person per night because she's been, and she wants that great exposure to the West, right, to that ranch experience. She knows what to expect and she loves it. So then we asked them about how they feel about all-inclusive, okay? I'm not talking about the concept, I'm talking about the term. They love the idea of, leaving your wallet at the door, not having to think about anything, coming and going, right? They love that. But the words all-inclusive makes it feel like it's not personalized, that you're catering to the masses. Because unfortunately, during that golden era, when everything was prepackaged, right? There was, this idea has really been watered down, right? Mara talks about the quality might not be as good and the equipment, is not going to be as top-notch. And that's the last thing you want someone to think about your property. Joe, this is a favorite quote of mine, the food to be lower quality and the drinks to be underwhelming. Now, I had the prickly pear margarita last night. That was not an underwhelming drink. That was fantastic, right? And there's, but that is the impression when they hear the term all-inclusive. How do they feel about dude? Anyone want to guess on this one? There's mixed interpretations and reactions. Okay. Susan has been to a couple different dude ranches before. She thinks it's a misleading term. It sells you short, right? Like she's actually, instead of, I think the original definition of dude was the people who came to visit, she's actually starting to think that dude is actually you all, which is the opposite of the meaning, right? So it's misleading to her, and she just wants you to keep the guest concept, right? Sheppy's in her early 70s. She has been before. When she was searching for a ranch, and this was probably, I think, about 20 years ago, she specifically chose a ranch with guest in its name because she knew that implied that there was more than just horseback riding activities. Mark, he thinks of city slickers, right? And he doesn't associate that as a good thing, right? He doesn't want to be that guy who just goes out and buys a pair of boots and a cowboy hat and thinks that he is playing the part, right? Now, mind you, Mark probably will do that, but he doesn't want to come across as that, right? He wants it to be more authentic and real than that. Becca says the name's fine, it still fits, But Joe, I think, really sums it up nicely. People are going to take it all different ways. It's part of the lexicon. The important part here is to focus on talking about the experience rather than focusing on the term itself. Any questions on any of this? Okay. You guys are quiet. Last night you weren't so quiet. All right. Do they appreciate the DRA accreditation? We asked them specifically, we finally revealed to them that yes, this is for a specific organization. Let's talk about it. Yes, they appreciate the DRA accreditation, but they wouldn't limit themselves. All right. These are smart people. These are independent thinkers. That's okay. But it's also, really ties back into that era of experience where marketing information, you can get it from anywhere, right? And you can go anywhere. So Christy talks about, yep, it's going to weigh in on my decision, but it's not the only place I'm going to go to. The website's not going to be the only place that she's going to go to. She appreciates the level of care, but she wouldn't rule out other options. Okay, makes sense? Mara, the website is very informative, super helpful. It makes her research process shorter, right? Because keep in mind, if they don't really know what a dude ranchification is all about, and they go to the Dude Ranch website, you're doing the research for them. You're making it easier for them to understand, to match up what kind of Dude Ranch might be best for them. Because just as there are variations in all of you, there are variations in your target audience, right? The other thing I want to mention too is that we also asked them about the 6 H's, and the general feedback was like, yep, we get it, that makes sense, we can see that coming through. But I think there's an opportunity, and we'll talk about that, to do more, to tell your story better. So now let's talk about the challenges. There is a diminishing base of core customers. I don't think this fact is going to surprise any of you. 11%, only 11% of horse owners are between 18 and 34. That's not a lot. My boys, as I mentioned, they're 9 and 10. My husband grew up on a farm with horses. He worked for a horse farm for a long time in Pennsylvania. And we put our boys in horse camp during the summertime when they were 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. But they're 9 and 10. We're not in the opportunity of having a horse ranch or having horses, and they do lots of other activities. So again, I tell you that personal anecdote because even though they come from a background of horse ownership, they themselves will not be horse owners.
Are there any reasons why?
Why is this diminishing?
Yeah, why they wouldn't be interested? Why there's less interest?
For my sons?
Yeah, like for that age.
Not less interest, just not able to do it.
Yeah, which actually goes to my next point. There's a lack of awareness of Western heritage. 50 million people are expected to move to the West by 2040. Okay, so if you've got less land, right, there's less opportunities for horse ownership, right? And I'm sure that...
Okay, let me...
Yeah.
I'm going to challenge you on this. So that would mean that in areas like New York, Boston, Chicago, California, Frankfurt, England, London, there would be less ownership of horses? Because they're in suburban areas?
What I'm telling you, I'm sharing with you a statistic from RAC Equine Market Mega Study, when they looked at all the horse ownership in the U.S. What they found is that only 11% of people between ages 18 and 34 of the, okay, so let me back that up. When they looked at the horse owners, only 11% of the horse owners were this younger audience. Okay, your horse owners are getting older, and there aren't the younger people.
No replacement.
Right, there's no replacement.
But are they getting older or?
What's that?
Who says that it's diminishing? What was it? What was it 50 years ago?
Ooh, this is good. I hear the room roaring. It's definitely decreasing. I am not a horse expert, okay? I looked at secondary research to explain to me, look at, okay, where is horse ownership going? And it's declining for people who are younger. And not only is horse ownership declining, but you also look at the prevalence of horses in the U.S. is also decreasing. There were studies that showed that the number of people who are going to horse races is decreasing. The number of people who are, so even though again, don't shoot the messenger, I'm just telling you what I found.
No, I can completely imagine that the horse owners number is decreasing.
Yes.
I don't see exactly how we can put that age trend really. It's a lot harder for me to imagine that it can be so precise and exactly. To the contrary, I feel that we have more younger people interested in the horse activity. So it's confusing.
So what his point was is that he's seeing that there are more younger people interested in the horse activity.
I think there's a difference between being interested and being able to afford a horse.
Right.
Between 18 and 34, I think it's normal, it's very expensive to keep a horse.
I just wondered also if the economy in the last 4 or 5 years has affected this.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of people
Well, because
sold their horses, got out of the business, got away from that because they couldn't afford it.
I'm going to pull up this study. I'm going to just read this so you guys have it to give you some context. And again, I think it's important to keep what I'm saying, the overall theme in mind. Okay, that there is a lack of horse prevalence. I don't think anyone, in terms of how much they are part of our day-to-day culture. Not yours. I'm talking about people outside the West. In addition to that, as I make my next point, the awareness of Western heritage is going to, I think, continue to decrease because you've got more and more people coming to the West, and everything is starting to look the same. So I don't know if any of you have seen this documentary, Losing the West. Has anyone seen it? Okay. One of the great scenes from this film, it profiles an older cowboy, and he's driving around, I think, Denver or the suburbs of Denver. And he's like, I don't know why all these people are coming here and building all these things. I mean, it's just, beautiful land. And, the scenes are Starbucks and Nordstrom's, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if they're predicting 50 million new people, where are all those people going to go? And I think when you think about Denver and Dallas, those used to be, Western communities, Western cities, towns. But I can guarantee you that there are places in Denver and Dallas, if I dropped you into the middle of those areas, you couldn't tell where you were, of course, besides Denver, the mountains, but you'd be surrounded by all the sameness that's everywhere else in every other community across the U.S. Does that make sense? Okay. So, hang on, I told you I'd give you this from that exact, I'll give that to you later. I'll come back and give that to you later, that exact study, and dig into it. But I think what we're seeing is this continued lack of prevalence of the horse, not with you all, of course, but elsewhere, okay?
did you see in that study, we see more and more people like baby boomers, women especially, that had a horse when they were younger and they want to get back into it? Do you see a trend in that?
I don't recall off the top of my head. Okay. Sir?
I've seen the same trend in other parts of my business because we're also whitewater rafting outfitters and also fishing outfitters. We have a loss of our core audience. We hear the same comments where fly fishing retailers are bemoaning the fact that nobody is getting into the industry and their client base is aging and they're not being replenished with new fly fishing. The rafting industry is saturated and there's no growth in that industry because there's no incoming field of people that want to experience it. I think it's a larger phenomenon that the due industry is a piece of, and that has to do in large part with actuarial tables and a decrease in our interest as a society to more passive involvement.
Yeah.
Active engagement seems to be harder to come by for an interest group that people want to get involved with. So I see this as a piece of a much larger picture.
Well, too, I mean, just to reinforce what you were saying, the ski industry was seeing the same thing. Of course, then snowboarding came around and they saw, an uptick in participation because the younger people were coming out and snowboarding and going to the ski resorts that way. Okay, I'm going to keep moving, but, please circle back with me if you have additional questions. So with that lack of force prevalence and that the idea of this Western heritage, we've got a lack of understanding, okay? You heard this from the people who participated. Jill, who was one of our online discussion participants, she's from the New York City area. First thing that comes to mind for her is City Slickers. City Slickers first came out in 1991. I barely remember parts of that movie, let alone the whole thing. I remember that Billy Crystal ended up with a cow in Manhattan, right? What does that mean? So, there's also this lack of time, okay? We're seeing this again and again and again. I really wish that the prediction that economists made in 1930, that we would only work 3 hours a day, would have come true. I really would have liked that. But the truth is, and we're seeing this, The Economist just had an article on it, this idea of time impoverishment is that 42% of Americans didn't take any vacation days last year, right? So how are they going to unplug for 10 days and come and see you all? There's also lots of competition. As I talked about in this Arab experience, people can go anywhere, even space, right? They can travel to space, technically, maybe. I wouldn't want to, but they literally can go anywhere. And they can find out information about it anywhere. Stephen talks about that he would think, he would spend a week at a dude ranch. But with the pricing, he would choose something else. Again, his household income is $250,000 plus. He spent a week at Big Sky, spending $450 just alone on lift tickets. So there's just a lot of things that people can do. This slide is a slide from Google Trends. And I charted 3 terms: dude ranch, guest ranch, and resort ranch. Okay? It might be a little hard for you to see in the back of the room, but this isn't that it's necessarily declining, but it's declining compared to other things that people are searching on Google, right? So there's so many things that people can search, right? There's so many different places they can go. There's so much information at their fingertips. We're seeing a general decline. Resort ranch is actually staying relatively high and is increasing, if you think about it, relatively to dude ranch and guest ranch. I'll talk about that in this.
What's the date range on that?
That's 2005 here and 2014 there.
Which line is dude ranch and which line is guest ranch?
Oh yeah, dude ranch is blue, so we start up high here, and then come down over here. And then red, I think that's red, is guest ranch, which is there, and then resort ranch is there. Now, this is not a scientific, right? This is just what people are searching for on Google, and the decline there is an overall of all searches on Google where dude ranch, guest ranch, and resort ranch are popping up. But it's something to think about, something to consider, and it reinforces the point that there is lots of competition.
Is that numbers of clicks or percentages? You can't see back here what it is.
It is numbers of searches.
Okay.
Okay. There's also lots of options. Okay, even within the dude ranch industry themselves, yourselves, and that's okay. Kim talks about, she Googled Dude Ranch vacations. There's so many and they are everywhere. Kim travels all over the world, okay? And she notices that, dude ranches aren't just limited to the US and Canada, but you could go to Patagonia, you could go to just about anywhere. Well, not just about anywhere, but there's lots of places to go. So this slide, I wanted to pull this up. Okay, everyone take a deep breath. These four are not members of DRA, all right? For a variety of different reasons. I don't, I won't get into the details. I don't know the details, but they don't meet all the criteria or what has been said. Brush Creek and Triple Creek and Sea Lazy U, which is a member. Where are you, Dale? All right, Dale. Were just named by Condé Nast Traveler in the top Reader's Choice Awards for 2014. Brush Creek was number 1. I think Triple Creek was 3, and Sea Lazy U, I think Dale was 8. Okay. Brush Creek has also been recognized by Travel and Leisure. Triple Creek was rated the number 1 hotel in the world by Travel and Leisure. Okay. So, and then Ranch at Rock Creek was just named to a list of, I think it's not even 25 unique lodges of the world put out by National Geographic. Okay, so they're the only U.S. Property to make that list of, I think it's 24 or 25. So my point is, these properties are getting lots of national and international recognition. They may not fit the DRA criteria for a dude ranch, but the general public, the people who are reading those magazines, they are defining a dude ranch experience for the general public.
I agree absolutely with you. But if you look like, for instance, Brush Creek, if you see the big consortium there, and that's the danger for us actually, as small operators, and why DRA is so important. The amount of dollars that they can throw at the market, they're actually resetting the benchmark of what is, or the expectation.
Yes.
So I agree with you.
They're resetting the expectation. Now keep in mind, not everyone can throw down $1,700 a night per person at Paws Up, but they can still dream about wanting to have a dude ranch experience. And then they're going to find, see the other thing I'm saying, then they're going to find a dude ranch that meets their expectations, that works for them, okay? But these folks right here, they are setting the bar.
And funny enough, if you get those people at your ranch, very often they rate, for instance, our service and personal care and attention,
Right.
even the food sometimes,
Right.
better than those places.
Right.
But the massive dollars they throw at the market, it's hard
Right.
to compete with.
Right. So this is, they are, what's happening, and Kim from Triple J knows this, I give this advice to our clients, okay? When you're at a party, do you go into the corner and talk with yourself? You might, but chances are you join the existing conversations, right? And existing conversations are being held and are being heard by your target audience, and they are talking about, your target audience they don't understand what DRA accreditation is. I mean, they don't. I mean, they appreciate it, right? But this is the conversation that's being had. So it's something to think about, and think about how do you join in on that conversation. Okay, probably gonna get all riled up now. So, the opportunities. So I just went through the challenges, here are the opportunities. Experiential travel is on the rise. Call it what you want, adventure travel, whatever. It's on the rise. This is the era of experience we talked about. This quote from American Express, 72% of travelers said they would rather spend money on experiences than things. They want unique experiences, okay? Guess what, folks? You offer a really unique experience. multi-generational travel is increasing. You probably are seeing this. What's really great is that this is who you are. I mean, some of you are not only having multi-generational guests, but you yourselves are multi-generational dude ranches, right? This is an elite for you, right? This is fantastic. And this is only continuing to increase. The Lux report that's put out by Virtuoso came out with this is like the continuing trend that we're expecting to see for the next 4 or 5 years. The desire to disconnect and reconnect. Just the other day, I was flipping through a magazine, and Deer Valley, a ski resort in Utah, had an ad, and it was a family of 4 on the ski slopes, and the ad had one word: reconnect. Okay. And Paul Thoreau, who is a writer for Condé Nast Traveler, and this goes back to what I was saying about people are trying to figure out, where there are lesser traveled places where it's not all the same. We want to find the last remaining pockets of seclusion because we've been wickedly tricked by civilization. So great opportunity for you all. Different experience, and this ties right into this point that I'm about to make. Truly different experiences are trying harder and harder to obtain. Okay. Jamie Wong, who's the founder of Viable, talks about the globalization and technology have led to the homogenization of cities, which has resulted in travelers feeling locally made and authentic experiences. And this is what you offer. In terms of authentic, that might be environmental, that might be historical, that might be cultural. I was really excited when my hike that I took yesterday, I went by the homestead and I was taking pictures of the homestead. That's really cool to people. That's a story there. When I was starting to think about, okay, just the historical significance, before Bob even told his story about the rancher being hung. But there's really great historical significance. So the other thing too is that, the more unique the experience, the better the bragging rights, right? The better the badge. If we're all have access to the same things, the more unique things that we can do, the better it is. What we tell our clients is that preserved uniqueness creates value. And this is, I think, a really important point and something I just want to take a moment and focus on, because as I talked about, this audience really wants something unique. And people who live in urban areas, this is unique. What you offer is unique. Western lifestyle activities are unique. And those might be present-day Western lifestyle activities, whitewater rafting, hiking, skeet shooting, or they might be more historical, cultural day activities, past day activities, riding, lassoing, back one, Brandwood, do bonfires. So how they define that for themselves really depends on the individual, but they want that unique aspect. And the good news is you aren't reinventing yourselves, right? I took this out of the Code of Ethics, your Code of Ethics. A dude ranch shall exemplify the Western ranch ideal of personal and home-like hospitality. And as I started out by saying, and I wasn't blowing smoke, I can't think of more hospitable people than this room right here, these people in this room. You are true gentlemen and gentleladies. And folks you talk to people, right? You converse with people. And, I don't know last time any of you were in a big city, but you walk by someone on the street and you say hi, and they almost jump out of their pants because they can't believe someone's saying hi to them, right? Sir?
If that's who we think we are, in talking to your 16 participants, I didn't hear anything that that's what they were looking for.
They don't understand. Well, they don't understand that that's what it is. But I'm going to correct you, because those who had been called it out. They called out,
I understand, but those aren't the people we're looking for. We're looking for the
Right.
people who haven't
right,
been
right,
before.
Right.
And so, is it, I hope we get to that. So
Right.
how do we get to that point
right,
to
Yeah.
try to take what we think we offer, our uniqueness
yeah,
that creates value? So far, some of us are having a hard time finding, maybe it creates a value in the customer's
Right.
eyes, but not an economic value to us